Live.
We are live.
Yes. What's up, everybody? Welcome. Another episode of Office Hours. This is episode 81. It's me. It's Nora. And we have a special guest. and it's Bush. Thank you all for joining us. Honestly, if you could hit the like button as we get started here, we'd really appreciate it. It helps us get in front of more people and more artists, creatives that need our information and whatnot. Hit the subscribe button. We we got those statistics now, and we've learned that like over half of you are not subscribed. So hit the subscribe button. We're gonna do that gradual climb. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get all of you one step at a time. We're excited about it. Nora is trying to rein in our special guest, but here we go. I was going to ask you a specific question going in, but let's. You told me some pretty good information earlier. You have a setup now. Tell us about it.
I live in a 1-bedroom in Los Angeles. It's small as fuck. I refuse to work in my bedroom, so I've been working on the floor and the couch, and I finally have like a little desk work area. So. We're not on the couch anymore. I dream of an office. Like I really, a dedicated space, but here we are.
Poor girl, I tried to put you on the spot and you
well, because you were like, I've got questions. And I was like, oh my God, I love questions, but also I was like, where is this gonna go?
Oh, no. We're listen, everybody.
I didn't know what to prepare myself for.
Of course. Let's pull up the fourth wall for just a second. Listen, when we've talked about this and how we run our videos and stuff like that. We have meetings every other week and stuff like that. And one thing that we've been trying to do is just kind of get the ball rolling, as I slow the ball down right now, but get the ball rolling on the episode and stuff like that. So my thought is, let's just hit Nora with a random ass question and just get her talking, and then we're going in. But mission failed. We'll try again next time.
I failed?
No, I failed.
No, none of us. We're learning. We're learning in real time, because here's really the lesson, right? We looked at our stats, and one of the things we saw is that people stop watching after, what was it, like 14 seconds or 17 seconds or some.
It wasn't that bad. Good Lord. You're talking about the IG live like that. Can you help us?
Okay, well, you're right. I'm trying to help. That's the irony of it, is I'm trying to help us. And clearly,
it's almost 10 minutes, almost.
10 minutes. Okay, so people have short attention spans. And if Sto and I spend the first 10 minutes being like, how are you? I'm good. How are you? Like, that's not interesting for us, but it's also not interesting for you, the viewer. And so we've been talking about what are ways that we can make those first 10 minutes more informative, more engaging. But we've never done this before. And so what you're actually viewing is us practicing.
Beta testing in real time.
And beta testing. And we tell you this all the time, like try different things, experiment, like mix it up and see how you feel, how your audience reacts. So you're literally watching us do what we've been telling you to do. And, we'll go back and process this information, and it'll get better and better and better and better. And I'll have better answers for you next time.
I got better questions. All right. We're 4 minutes in. We've
also because you won't let me ask you questions. I have great questions for Sto, and every time Sto is like, no. So one of these days but when you're ready and on your own time. But today, my friends, we're here to talk about copyright and copyright infringement. And there's a really big case that's like in the courts right now that is basically suing half of reggaeton for so we're going to get into it, and we're going to talk about it to really look at what's the balance between creative license and, recreation and collaboration versus versus like what's stealing. And so I wanted, Sto, if you're cool with it, to give like a quick breakdown of the case. Like, we're not lawyers.
Definitely.
This isn't, but I think it's such an interesting case example. So, and I took notes because I'm trying to get it all right. So
I got the article pulled up. Because I'm a few steps behind. Like until you told me, no one's covering this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not getting huge attention, which is interesting because there are over 100 artists and labels named in this lawsuit. It's everyone from Maluma, Bad Bunny,
Daddy Yankee.
I think I saw Diplo's name. I think I saw Drake's name. Like, it's a huge, not to say that Drake or Diplo are reggaeton artists, but it's like a huge, Luis Fonsi, it's like a huge number of artists whose songs we're hearing all the time. And so the fact that it hasn't, so here's what happened. And the case has been around since like 2013. Like, it's been around for a while, and it keeps going through appeals and back and forth as our legal system does. But in 1989, two Jamaican producers, Steely and Clevie, released a song called Fish Market. Fish Market was then used, shout out to Serial Sensei. I love Drake's slander. That's what he gets for being a culture vulture. So, anyways, different conversation. So in 1989, Steely and Clevie released a song called Fish Market. And a little bit later, Shabba Ranks sampled Fish Market in his song Dembo. Dembo, which was the name of the song, also became kind of the foundational rhythm of what we all know as reggaeton today. Mm-hmm. And so the case is arguing, so Steely and Clevie are bringing this case saying that the foundational songs, the rhythm and the beat and the percussion.
The patterns, right.
You say what, Sto?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm just saying like the drum patterns and like all that stuff.
Yeah, came from their song Fish Market. And therefore, all these songs in reggaeton that are using dembo or dembow, all these songs that are using dembo. I was listening to it and I was like, okay, this is how you say it. Anyways, all these songs in reggaeton that are using dembo are actually using what they first created in Fish Market, and therefore they're entitled to compensation because they were the originators of the originate. On the flip side, the artists are arguing that you can't copyright basic drum patterns and singular notes. So melody and lyrics are copyrightable, but neither of those two things are actually what's up in this case. So it's not about the lyrics and it's not even really about the melody. It's about the basic. Right. And what the artists are arguing is that, and this is a quote from I think it was a CNN article, that the producers are trying to, quote, monopolize practically the entire reggaeton musical genre for themselves, end quote. And so the implications is that if we say that these are essentially like responsible for all the rhythms of reggaeton, then what restrictions would it kill the genre? What happens? And so that's the case that's happening. Right. And as Serial Sensei is saying, ooh, this is a tricky one.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, we see the whole copyright sample clearance thing in hip hop all the time. And so it's interesting to see it in full form like this, where was it hundreds or even 1,000 artists? I can't remember. I'm sorry.
100 artists and 1,600 songs at least.
which is that's a lot. And like, I'm sure they're only scratching the surface with that. So like, I have my own feelings about, especially again, being a hip hop head. I hear samples and stuff all the time pulled from all types of songs. I just always get back to the point of like, why can't we just give people credit for the things that they do? Is it really that difficult?
Because I think also some of this language is like really technical language. So for folks who might not know, like I just want to like break it down. A sample is when you take a little bit of a song, the melody or the lyrics or a noticeable pattern in the song, and you reuse it in a new song. And we hear this all the time in music. It's really common in hip hop. We all are familiar.
What, is this different?
This is, I think what's different in this case is they're not talking about a melody or a lyric or what the like artists are arguing is that what was taken from Fish Market wasn't coherent enough, wasn't enough of a pattern to say that it came from them, but also that this has now become, there's also, I think, a question of how it's being used. And there's a difference, I think, what they're arguing is when you take a sample and apply it to one song or two songs, because if I'm taking something that Sto has used already, I ask Sto for permission. So like Beyonce just sampled Dolly Parton's Jolene, right? And she did a reinterpretation of that song. She asked Dolly Parton for permission. Dolly Parton gets credit and whatever the financial degree of that is. And that's all agreed to from both sides. If this was just one or two songs, I don't think there would be an argument here. I think the argument is partly because they're arguing that the entire genre is based on their one song.
Right.
That's the part about like monopolizing the whole, the whole, because can you get sample clearances? And that's what it's called, a sample clearance, when you're getting permission to use the song again. I don't know. Can you get sample clearances for an entire genre? Does that then restrict the genre and stop it from growing, right? Does that stop? And this is, I think, part of the conversation is, and I believe people should get credit, like give credit for people. And also, does it stop the evolution of music? If we get so focused on the copyright and the clearance and the sample, does that then hold us back from allowing music to merge and move and blend as it's always done? Music has always had offshoots and got, Serial Sensei is saying, I'm not an expert on the genre at all, but it sounds like Steely and Clevie are basically saying everything y'all make sounds exactly to the T like what we did, so they want to cut. Because the dembo that Shabba Ranks made, that they were credited on, that's literally like the name of part of the genre. Like dembow is part of reggaeton. It's like such a foundational thing. And so in some ways, and kind of what Serial Sensei just recapped for us, is Steely and Clevie are saying we're like the godfathers of this genre. We should be credited and financially compensated.
And I think that's valid. You know what I mean? Like I obviously don't know the details, but like if it's that foundational, like what's wrong with giving a cut? Like I've always kind of wondered about that. Like I'm not saying like, for some producers and independent artists, like it's not that easy to just give a cut to the artist, which I'm totally fine. Like, hey, if you want to upload that to Bandcamp and whatever.
Worry about it when you get rich and then share.
Bingo. Exactly. But for real, like literally that. And so and it's like, okay, hold on a minute. Like a good portion of these artists have made a good portion of money. So is it really taking that much of a hit if you're giving your cut to who's involved and stuff like that. But yeah, throw that up real quick, please.
Yeah, Serial Sensei adds, it's valid, but I don't know how you financially compensate them for an entire genre, because that could open up a major can of worms for music in general. And I think
you need to listen to the joint myself, like the like actual beat myself, because
the Fish Market and Shabba Ranks's Dembao, sorry y'all, are so similar. Like, they're really similar. And I can see some of the threads between the Shabba Ranks song and reggaeton. So like you see it. And I would be really curious to hear from like a music historian or what are they called? Musicologist, ethnographer, I don't know. If this clear order of operations exists in other genres. Like if we look at like hip hop, you can see how multiple different genres came together to create hip hop. Like hip hop was born on samples and mixing. So like there's no one person that we would be like, if this song had never been made, we would never have hip hop. Or if you look at like, yeah, because for me, the other thought that comes up is if we get so focused on controlling the musical knowledge, do we then stop people's creativity?
I just think that like just give them a cut. Like I'm not like if you want to take credit, I guess, for an entire genre, that's one thing, but it's just like give them a cut. It's just if we're coming in asking for 70%, like that's one thing, but I just don't think like if we get to this point where you can't use you know a certain sound or whatever like without paying, like I guess I'm also confused because it's like, okay, every song in reggaeton, like I get it, I listen to the beat and the drum pattern, I get it, but it's like I don't know, I think artists deserve their cut for sure, but I don't know, I just feel like it's like a tug of war type joint.
Well, and what the lawyers, and keep in mind, these are 100 artists and labels. So think about the legal power behind all these people. Like this is all the power and wealth and access that can get the best music legal protections. But what the lawyers are saying is that you cannot copyright a single percussive note. You cannot that there's not enough of a pattern to say that Steely and Clevie created something so foundational that that's the thing that's happening.
I'd argue otherwise, I guess. Like that drum pattern, like we all get it, we've all heard it. Like I just don't think like it should get to the point where it's like, okay, you shouldn't have to give a cut. Like you can't even give a cut. Like I guess that's where I come to, is that like it, because I'm not, I kind of still do kind of throw this in the category of sampling, because like there's no vocals like that, but like that drum pattern, like that's, you're taking a piece and then using it, and even if you're emulating it, it's still over and over and over again. So I don't know. This is interesting.
Well, and I think the other part, and we all know how problematic the U.S. legal system is that, and I think this case is being looked at in the United States, even though, like, I don't know how that works, even though the original producers are Jamaican and we're talking about reggaeton star. So I don't know how that works. It's judges that make these decisions, and the judges are not experts in music. let alone have an understanding of reggae or reggaeton. So like historically, a lot of times these cases have not, like, who is it? Ed Sheeran was sued for using, I think, Marvin Gaye, for sampling Marvin Gaye, and he won his case. Who was the one with the creepy song? Blurred Lines. There was a huge like a huge case against that. Like sometimes to us it seems so obvious, and the judges will be like, no, you did that all by yourself. And so it's also interesting to look at historically when these cases come up, and they do come up. Robin Thicke, thank you, Serial Sensei. These cases do come up quite frequently. They don't always go the way that I think, like, I'm like, oh, it's so obvious, or so, and because their decisions are being made by people who actually don't have great familiarity with music or those genres necessarily. So
I guess the case is, it's taking place in California.
Yeah. Serial Sensei says, I think the bad side of this is you're going to have people from all genres trying to claim they invented something, and it could get really messy.
And that's why that's where I'm like, just give them their cut. Like, I'm not saying it. Obviously, hey, that's what negotiations are about. We got a whole episode on it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that certain people shouldn't get credit for their work, but it's at the same time, it's like, it is. It's a weird tightrope. This is an interesting discussion to have.
Yeah. And historically, like when copyright laws first came into being, it's also why like copyright and trademarks have like expiration dates. It's when they tried to make up these laws, the idea was to balance protecting the creative property and the IP, the intellectual property of the people who are creating it, so that, and remember, we're under capitalism, so that people feel encouraged to continue creating, because the more I create, the more I can copyright, and the more I can earn money off of what I'm creating. And at the same time, they also wanted to leave space for innovation and creativity and, things like that. And so I think that's part of this. I think, again, not a lawyer, not a legal expert, but I think that'll be a part of this conversation, is how is the law being applied, and is the application of the law going to be harmful to the creative success or ongoing well-being of a genre? And I don't know how they make those decisions, but I think that balance is interesting. And this conversation comes up a lot with like DJs who literally their whole career is based on, their whole creativity is based on taking other people's music and creating something new. But does a DJ have to pay sample clearance to every single person whose music that they remix? Are they doing it enough? Right? Like when you're and we know this because even when you play a song on Instagram, they'll block you, or you play it on YouTube for a certain number. There's all this stuff around it. And so what's good for creativity and also what's fair to people, I think, is really the crux of this. Outside of like the specific legal issue, I think that's the broader conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And so much art has been made like without all this garbage being in the discussion. And so, I give people credit for the things that they've done, but at the same time, it's like you said, we live under a system of, and there's a whole other episode that could happen with like, trademarks being let go after X amount of years. Like, I don't know, we just saw that a few months back, right? And still now, if I see another, I can't even say the word because I swear the algorithm's going to hear me. Insert medication here. They're just pulling songs, just like every year, like a new batch of songs is available now and stuff like. So it's like, I don't know. It's at the end of the day, I feel like artists should get credit for the stuff that they've done, but at the same time, the ban hammer shouldn't be so hard that it crushes, I mean, I'm always thinking independent creativity. Like so many artists that are building beats, using samples, sounds, all this stuff without necessarily asking for permission. What, we're just going to shut that down too? And that's where again, I don't know, a discussion just has to be had between like, okay, y'all are over here, label stuff, already have money, all that jazz. And then there's a whole batch of artists that are coming up and using samples and trying to find themselves and their creativity and all that jazz. Like, we're really going to shut that down, for copyright and stuff like that. So I don't know. This was a more confusing, I guess, and kind of teetering the line conversation than I expected.
Yeah, and I know I don't have the answers, and I don't think that was our idea behind today's episode. But what I hope that folks take away is like, these are things that we should be thinking about. And as much as, as artists, like, just want to make music and put it out, which is cool. But once you're starting to make your music a product, then it does exist in a larger ecosystem of systems like capitalism and the justice system and legalities, and it does interplay with all these things. So it's just an interesting thing to think about, and I would love to hear people's thoughts and comments and reactions in the comments, and we'll keep you all updated as the case progresses. They're right now like appealing and going. I mean, like when you got lots of lawyers with lots of money, they'll just go back and forth forever. So who knows how long the case is actually going to take and when it's going to get decided. But let us know what you think, like who's right, who's wrong. Maybe there's an alternative solution we haven't thought about. I would really love to hear what y'all think in the comments. And Sto and I will keep you updated as the case progresses, and we'll continue to have conversations like this. But I think it's just an interesting thing to think about. And also from like a nerdy perspective, it's really cool to see the progression of music. How one thing led to another thing. Like, I'm obsessed with samples, and we see it all the time. I mean, the other case I think about, anyways, this is going to get me. We should do a whole separate episode on like samples that have been fairly compensated and artists that have been screwed over. And
that's right.
But anyways, want to thank you all for hanging out with us and watching and participating. As always, we love to hear from you. So let us know what you think in the comments. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe, because that's how we support independent artists and creatives like Sto and myself. Make sure you take some time to support your favorite local artists, whether that's going to their Bandcamp or sliding in their DMs and telling them how much you appreciate them, or retweeting or resharing some of their work, because it's hard to be independent out here. Drink some water. Go outside, take care of yourselves. That's it.
Nah, bump all of that. Listen, hit the like button, okay? Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, okay? We want to make sure, listen, we have 80 episodes up, okay? We know that people are watching these episodes. It helps us get in front of more people. If you hit the like button, when you hit the subscribe button, you'll be notified every time we drop a new video, okay? You're going to get myself. You're going to get Nora's nervous self, okay? It's going to be all good in the hood. And here's the thing. 80 episodes behind us. And so the more that you give us comments, the more that you give us support and stuff like that, it gives us more ideas to make more episodes in the future. We do this to help you all. So, again, hit the comments. I know that there are so many of you that have dealt with copyright stuff and like sampling and whatnot. And so we want to get you all a part of this discussion, because here's the thing. This is kind of like stage one. I won't be surprised if we start seeing more stories like this as things kind of progress. So let us know what you think. Again, hit that like button, drink water, talk to yourself nice. Get a website. If you can't get a website, get a newsletter, okay? I think we're out of here.
Oh, and we're on Wednesdays now.
Peace.
This is not a fluke. We're on Wednesdays now.
Oh, shit. Wednesdays. Right. We're on Wednesdays. We did a little early. We did a little early this time, but we're going to usually be 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern.
Yes.
Still hit that like button, though.
See you in 2 weeks.